Hey everyone, I'm Karan from Enable and welcome back to the official video tutorial series on AbleSet. This video is going to be all about the Canvas feature. You've already seen how customizable AbleSet can be in Performance View. Well, the Canvas feature takes this to a whole nother level. The basic idea is similar. You can choose which elements you'd like to see, but you also have complete control over the sizing and layout of these. And that's just the start of it. With buttons, sliders, and labels, you can create your own functionalities and control all aspects of your playback setup, OSC devices, and MIDI gear. Canvases are where everything we've learned up until now comes together. They can be as complex or as focused as you need them to be, and you can create multiple different canvases that are accessible from every device in your setup. Over the course of this video, I'm going to show you how to build this DJ deck canvas designed for performing live with hip-hop artists. Besides giving you control over your playback, this customized user interface also allows you to perform cuts by pulling down the master fader, but also gives you individual mute and solo control over track groups. On top of that, I can trigger the classic airhorn sound and control the dry-wet mix of the vocal tuning that's set up on my Apollo. Once again, the possibilities of Canvas are virtually endless, so this is just one use case. But as we go along and build this, I will be explaining the separate elements and concepts, so hopefully that will inspire you to build your own canvases tailored to your specific needs. When we click the Canvas tab up here, we'll be presented with an empty screen at first. Let's click this Edit button right here to get started. Let's first go ahead and name our canvas. Next, I'm going to choose the tablet size in landscape mode, but you can choose whatever size you need or even define a custom size. I can also go ahead and set a background color for my canvas. I'm just going to leave this on the default, but choose whatever you like. Now, let's add some elements. I can click this plus button up here or use the shortcut Command K, and I'll get presented with a list of all available elements. Let's start with something familiar. I'm going to search for the Setlist element and then insert it into my canvas right here. This is the same window we know from the Setlist element in Performance View. Your setlist view settings like auto-expanding or auto-scrolling also apply here, and keyboard shortcuts for navigation and playback are the same. As you can see, I can now move this window around to where I need it, and I can also activate a grid on the top for better alignment. The zoom button up here lets you view the canvas at the actual size or a zoomed in version, which is easier to edit. I have auto-expand disabled in my setlist element, so to see my sections, I'm just going to go ahead and add a song progress bar. We already know many of the other elements like audio interfaces, clock, section progress, timecode, as well as the visual metronome from Performance View. These all have a few customization options in the settings, which are mostly self-explanatory, so I just encourage you to explore these by yourself. Just know that with the lyrics element, it's important to select which lyrics track you want to see in the settings for it to work. Okay, let's get some playback controls next. I'm going to click the plus button and search for the play stop button and place it down here. And I'll also add a loop button and place it beside it. To test them, I can go up to View Canvas right here, and the buttons are now clickable. If you want to test your elements while editing the canvas, you can just hold down the Command key and then click. This play button and the loop button are actually pre-configured element presets that come with AbleSet. If I click on one of them, I can make changes and customize them further in the settings right here. For instance, I could go in here and change the background color. You will notice that the color of the loop button changes when the loop is active. This is achieved with the help of what is called a template, and these allow us to tie the color to a condition. This template, for instance, checks whether the loop is active, and if that's the case, I get a deeper blue, and if not, the blue is more faded. Personally, I'd like to make this color change a bit more obvious, so I'm just going to go into the template and change the second color option to black. These buttons work by sending out OSC commands for play stop or toggling the loop. We can create our own button functionality by modifying this OSC command. I'm going to go ahead and copy my loop button and modify it into a jump to previous song button. I'm going to change the OSC message accordingly, and then I'll also go ahead and I'll delete the icon and choose an up arrow icon instead. Now, the dynamic color template from the loop button got carried over, which I don't need, so I'm just going to remove the dynamic toggle and select a gray color. Okay, next let's do a jump to next song button. I'll duplicate this button once again and I'll change this number to show 1, and that way the button will jump forward by one song instead. As you might have noticed on the play button, icons can be dynamic just like colors. I want to set up something similar for my jump to next song button, so let me copy the icon template from the play button and paste it right here. I'm going to modify this condition to check whether the next song exists, and if there's no next song, then I want this arrow with a bar icon instead. To see all the available icons when you're typing, just remove the quotation marks and AbleSet will show you the options. For more clarity, we can add labeling to these buttons. I'll add previous to my left button, and I'll add next to my right button. Also, let me go ahead and make the font just a little bit smaller so we can still see our icons. Okay, next, let's create our master volume fader that we'll use to perform the cuts. I'll start by adding a click track volume slider preset. This is pre-configured to control the track group for my click, so I'll need to modify the group that it's controlling. Where it says click right here, I'm going to go in and change it to master instead, which is a track group that all my separate backing tracks are a part of. Also, I'm going to change the max value to 0.85, which corresponds to 0 dB in Ableton Live. And finally, I want to change the color of this fader as well. Now, I'm not really happy with any of the available options, so what I can do is just activate the dynamic toggle, but instead of entering a template, I can just type out the color I want. For instance, I can choose white. You can then just go ahead and duplicate this fader to get control of your drums, 808, or synth track groups by changing the OSC. But honestly, I don't necessarily need this much control over my separate group volumes. I just want to be able to control mute and solo. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new button element. I'll change the label to just say M, and I'll change the font to be bold. This is the OC command that toggles the mute for the drum group. I've set it up so that when it's unmuted, the background color is white and the text is red, but as soon as I mute it, these colors will flip. Next, I'll go ahead and set up the solo button with these same steps, choosing S as label and blue coloring, and here are the color templates for that. But I'd like my solo to only be active while the button is pressed. To do this, I can add a separate command when letting go of the button. Now, I modified the press command to say true instead of toggle, and I'll copy it over to the release command where I'll modify it to say false. This way, solo will only be active while the button is pressed. Next, I can add a simple label field to let me know that these buttons control my drum group. And then I can duplicate these buttons and modify the OSC as well as the label to give me control over my other groups. For even better visualization, I can create a colored background area for each group. I'm going to add a panel element for that, and then choose a background color, and then place it behind my drum elements. And then I'll repeat this for my other groups. We've been using templates for dynamic button colors and icons, but I can actually also use it for labeling. In this setup, I want to make sure that the DJ always places the master slider back at maximum after a cut. So I've created a dynamically adapting label to show me a warning when the master volume is below 0.85. And when the fader is fully turned up, the label will disappear, which I achieved by leaving the second quotation marks in the label and background color templates empty. And to avoid the space being wasted, I'll insert a remaining song duration element and place it below my label, and I can then go into Align and Distribute and move it to the background. Moving on, let's check out two other options you get with buttons. We can use Link to go to another page within AbleSet. I've set up the lyrics page in case my artist needs it, but you could use it to go to the mixer or even go directly to the MIDI mapping settings from here. We can also choose to trigger a script from a button. I don't want to go too much into scripting here because it can get really advanced, but for now, just know that I can set up a function in my script to send a MIDI note. We'll use this MIDI note to trigger the airhorn sound. I'm going to go ahead and send it to my IAC driver, which loops this MIDI back to the drum rack in Ableton Live. I'm going to choose channel 10 and note 36, which corresponds to the pad where my sample is placed. Now, if I go into the canvas, I can trigger the airhorn sound from here. Sliders like the one I'm using to control my master fader also rely on scripting. I'm going to use this again to send out MIDI, this time using this MIDI to control the dry wet of the Autotune plugin that is running on my Apollo. Let me just go ahead and create a new slider. I'll change the orientation to horizontal and the style to thumb. Snap to pointer changes how your slider will react to clicks. With it on, the slider value will jump right to where your mouse is right when you click it. With it off, you're going to kind of grab the slider and just move it from where it's sitting right now. I'm just going to go ahead and name this slider Autotune Mix. And for MIDI, a minimum value of 0, a maximum value of 127, and a value step of 1 is suitable. I'll now script this to send a MIDI message whenever I change the value of the slider. I'm going to loop it back on the IAC driver using channel 16 and CC102. For the CC value, I want to transmit whatever value my slider currently is at, so I'll just type value. Let's use this fader to look at some of the settings we haven't looked at so far. The value field gives us the option to add a template in here, which again is useful for visual feedback. Back on our master fader, the template is pulling the track group's volume via OSC. This means if I change the volume in Ableton, this will actually be reflected on my canvas. Just like with buttons, sliders also give me the option to trigger a separate action when I release it. I could use this on my master fader to trigger a script, which resets the volume back to 0 once I let go of the slider, so I can't leave it turned down by mistake. Finally, I can link my slider's value to a variable. This allows me to further use this variable in scripting. For instance, I can link my Autotune mix slider's value to a variable called ATMix, and then convert it to a percentage within the label template so I can see my dry-wet blend on the slider. To wrap up, let's check out the last few elements we haven't talked about so far. Dividers allow us to organize our canvas elements into separate areas. With embeds, I can embed another website right into my canvas. This would, for instance, allow me to integrate my Xbox MD's web page user interface right here. Input fields allow you to enter a custom text or number value and then process it using scripting. This can make them anything you want them to be. But an example use case would be to set up a tablet during a wedding gig where the audience can enter a song request. Just create a canvas with only an input field that sends whatever was typed as a notification to your staged devices using OSC. The placeholder setting is great for displaying a short instruction. For instance, in this use case, I could say enter song request. And for a use case like this, deactivating the show edit and close buttons is great so that people cannot easily access the rest of your AbleSet environment from this canvas. And there you have it. That's your canvas ready to go. While this is really useful already, you can make it even more powerful with the help of scripting. To be fair, this does require you to have basic understanding of programming, but once you do, it opens up many possibilities. I could, for instance, add safe mode functionality to my play and stop button, so only a double press will actually stop. I could also set up visual feedback for my current Autotune mix value by receiving external MIDI from UAD console, and if I then change the mix on the Autotune plugin, my canvas will reflect it. Or I could simply set the Autotune mix to 0 whenever AbleSet's playback stops. We'll look at how scripting is implemented in AbleSet in the next video, so stick around for that. And head over to ableset.com to get your copy of AbleSet, and please check out Enable for more tips on Playback and Ableton Live. If you find these videos helpful, leave us a like and please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.